Introduce yourself to us.
Well, I'm Socrates Garrett, and I'm currently a candidate for mayor of the great city of Jackson in 2025. So I sought this position because I took a look at the way the city was trending, the trajectory of the city, and I didn't like what I saw.
Why do you want to be mayor? To improve the city.
Yeah.
But tell us about some of your involvement here in the city of Jackson.
Well, I've been here for quite a while. I was actually a part of Mayor Harvey Johnson's first campaign, the first African-American mayor to leave the city. And so I know Jackson, and Jackson knows me. I won't go into any part of the city where someone won't say, "Hello, Socrates, how you doing?" After having worked here for this long period of time. So I'm a past chairman of the Greater Jackson Chamber of Commerce. That's a 2,300 membership organization that represents about 5 counties. And so they selected me as chairman of that organization, and I was proud to serve. I'm the past chairman and inaugural chairman of the Mississippi Medical Mall Association, president of that organization and a founding member there, where we tried to highlight the medical mall and try to revitalize that area. And I was very active in trying to get the medical corridor to come through that area. I served on the levy board for 8 years, so I spent a lot of times on the levy board, traveling to Washington, D.C., trying to get resources for Jackson. I spent a lot of time with the late Thad Cochran, just a jewel of a man, and spent an enormous amount of time with Congressman Thompson and Senator Wicker. And so I've had these experiences. As a contractor, I've done revitalizations on water sewer lines, on streets, on stabilization projects. I've run the wastewater treatment plant at Savannah Street. I ran the water treatment plant at Presidential Hills, and specifically the dewatering operations of both of those plants. I've worked at the O.B. Curtis plant, so I understand where Jackson's assets are and how they should be protected and how they should be maintained. So I think I have the credentials for this position.
You got a lot of credentials, that is for sure. Let's talk about you getting out there, campaigning, talking to people. We say people come up to you and, "Hi, Socrates, how you doing?"
Yeah.
But what are some of the biggest issues that you're hearing from voters, or let's just say like what the top 3 issues that you are hearing from voters regarding the city of Jackson?
Well, number 1 is street repair and potholes. It's got to have more focus on it. When I say street repair, I'm not only talking about potholes, I'm talking about lighting and just putting markings on the street so you know what lane you're in, on your turn lanes, et cetera. It's tremendously dangerous if you don't know and can't see what lane you're in. And we are a city of a great number of senior citizens, and they're having a hard time just knowing what area of the street they are really on. And so I want to repair the streets and fix these potholes and then put lighting on the streets where we can see it. If the area is lit up properly, then it'll reduce crime and it'll help reduce the number of accidents that we have. So street repair is number 1 for me. Then number 2 is that we have to bring new businesses and new individuals back to Jackson. See, the number 1 responsibility of the mayor has to be to increase the revenue that comes into his city. His priority has to be bring rooftops back, and you do that by bringing people back and businesses back. And if you do that, you can lower taxes and reduce the fines that the people are having to pay. So number 2 for me is to increase the rooftops and the revenues coming back into the city. That's a priority. And then thirdly, these things kind of tie together, but we have to increase our housing. We don't have any new subdivisions in Jackson, no new homes, so it's hard for me to recruit CEOs to bring them into a city where they can't live in an area that they feel comfortable with, that has all of the amenities of the new infrastructure, And so we have to develop new housing for our CEOs and our citizens that want to move back. We got to fix the homeless problem. That's a housing issue that's separate from what I'm talking about. But we have to do them both. So one, infrastructure. Two, increase the revenue. Three, increase our housing stock.
And you were talking about the roads being so bad, all the potholes and not lit enough, things such as that. And then let's talk about how the water system here in Jackson is now being taken over, run by the federal government. And I mean, it really just seems like the infrastructure here within Jackson is really kind of crumbling. Tell us some of your plans to help that, to make that better.
Well, first of all, we're glad to have Jackson Water here in the city. The city needed the help that the government provided when they allotted $600 million to try and help repair Jackson's aged infrastructure. Like many older cities across this country, the water system and the infrastructure is in disrepair. Jackson's not the only one. We all know the stories of Flint, Michigan, et cetera, et cetera. So we understand that the system is old and it has aged and the pipes need to be replaced. So we appreciate the Jackson Water and the federal government for assisting us with that. Now, once we replace all these 2-inch and these 4-inch water lines that's in our city that won't give you adequate fire protection for the fire hydrants, et cetera, it won't supply the water pressure that businesses need to run their business and to make sure our hospitals and everything have the pressure that they need. Every time we lose pressure, somebody's air conditioner goes out, and then they have tremendous repairs in just repairing air conditioning units and heating systems, et cetera, because of the loss of water pressure. So fixing this is tremendously important. And then the one thing that others are not talking about that I'm very concerned about is once we increase the pressure from a plant that's running better, producing more water, and the distribution system is bringing the water to the home at a higher velocity, then the laterals that pick it up from the pipes into the home are still aged. Mm-hmm. They're still old and crumbling. But that's a private matter. So our citizens are going to experience tremendous expenses associated with laterals that currently there's no help for them to get that done. So I'd like to include that and appeal to the federal government, appeal to Jackson Water and the state government to assist us in replacing these laterals as we complete this upgrade on our water system.
So it's, in essence, taking the burden off of the citizens and placing it back onto the government, whether it be the city, federal.
Oh, I would say shared, because the cities are currently paying a tremendous water bill. Mm-hmm. Jackson is the only city that has what's called a water availability charge. That means if you don't use any water at all, you got a bill.
Yeah.
And on a commercial account, like my account, my water availability charge was $300 and some per month before I got any water. So our citizens are already bearing an undue amount of expenses associated with the water system the way that it is. So once we get these things fixed, then maybe we can reduce the fees and the fines associated with our water system.
What do you think are some of the biggest misconceptions that people have about Jackson, even just the residents of Jackson? What do you think are some of their biggest misconceptions?
Well, one is crime. I have to give Capitol Police credit. I was opposed to them coming into our city initially when I saw the legislation, and I didn't think that having a police force that didn't report to an elected official in Jackson was a good idea. But I have to give them credit. The crime element in Jackson has been tremendously impacted by their presence. And currently, Jackson has more police officers in the street than it has ever had before, with a reduced population. Back under Mayor Harvey Johnson, it was stated that we needed 450 police officers in the street, And then we were a 200 plus population city. Now we have greater than 400 police, with 200 and some from Capitol Police, 200 plus from the city of Jackson, and they're going to handle this crime. So we're going to fix the crime. And we cannot fix domestic violence. Mm-hmm. That is an area that social workers and someone else is going to have their hand on, and we cannot fix the problems associated with the mental illness that's creating a tremendous amount of unrest in our cities and our streets. So I think it's a misconception that Jackson is the murder capital of the world or an unsafe city. I think we're moving out of that designation into a better place.
When you say we can't fix, for instance, domestic violence or the crimes that are caused or as a result of mental health issues, what can we do then? What can you do as mayor to help combat the crime? Because granted, our numbers are going down, and I've said this every day. Chief Joseph Wade with Jackson Police Department has done a great job, and the numbers are going down as far as the crime rates. But what can you do to help, spur that momentum along to keep it going?
You see, the job of the CEO, the job of the mayor, is to put the best staff that he can organize and put in place, irregardless to color, irregardless to party affiliation, irregardless to sex, gender. As long as they're Jacksonians, I do have a requirement that it has to be a Jacksonian. That means I can recruit from the outside, but they have to move here. And so if the CEO, if the mayor puts the right team in place, which is his number one priority, organizing his team, then give the natural resources required and then get out of the way and let them do their job. So the Public Works Department has to have an engineer that's in charge of the Public Works Department. Mm-hmm. We just have to. We can't expect our citizens that don't have that skill set to read these plans, to understand water pressure, to understand the meters, understand all of that. You have to have a specific discipline for that. So I'm putting a public works director in place that's an engineer, and I'm also putting in place an architect alongside him. So we won't have these issues with Mayoral Hall and these buildings and these rooftop expenses that we have all of the time. We're in fight with insurance companies about who should pay for what. So we need those two disciplines on staff. Then I'm creating a new position called the vice mayor. I want a vice mayor because the job of the mayor, my job is to stay in the highways and the airways, recruiting and bringing revenue back to the city. So I'm not going to be there every day to watch the city council have their meeting. It's their meeting. Mm-hmm. But the vice mayor will be there for me to handle most of that. Now, when I'm in town, naturally, I will attend. But I should be in India. I should be somewhere trying to recruit a company to come. We had a great announcement by the government the other day that $1 billion plus expansion in the city of Meridian. Mm-hmm. Madison County has got $1 billion worth of expansion. Clinton got the Continental Tire plant. Nothing is happening in Jackson. And I got to fix that. I got to go out here and get that done. So what can I do to answer your question? Put the right team in place that has the right skill set to get the job done.
There's a lot of talk about mistrust with the government here in the city. What, do you have plans on helping to rebuild that trust for the citizens? Not only for the citizens, but for the state, for the country. As we look at Jackson and look at our state, have that distrust because of some allegations, is what they are right now, alleged things that may have happened. How can you rebuild trust?
Well, I want to separate the allegations from trust. Criminal activity is corruption, and we have some of that, and we have some of that throughout the state, and so that is an issue that we got to deal with. But on the issue of trust, it's the relationship between council members and this mayor I have to build a team that includes them. We have to have a shared vision, not just my vision. We have to have a shared vision that they buy into. One of the things I liked about Barack Obama as president when he said, I have to see things through your eyes. I have to have the ability to see things through your eyes so that I know where you're coming from. I know what your motivation is, and then I got to deal with that. So I have to build trust with the council people, and I'll work hard on doing that. But not only them, the Hinds County delegation has got to be my ambassadors into the legislature. I can't hire one lobbyist and think that they can have all of the relationship with this 123-member body up there just in the House. I got to have the Hinds County delegation in sync with me. So I intend to have quarterly meetings with them to talk about Jackson's needs and to talk about the things we're doing well, talk about the things they want us to correct. Too often I hear that we don't talk to one another. Mm-hmm. That won't be the case with me.
What about for your constituents, for the citizens of Jackson? I mean, do you have any ideas to increase the trust with them? Because you're talking about the legislator and the city council building the trust within there, but what about to the citizens?
See, everything is a pyramid. If I'm effective building a relationship with the council person in Ward 6, mm-hmm. the council person is going to help me build the relationships and the trust with the constituency in that ward, because they all have different needs. And so I have to work it down through that chain in order to get the message out. As a mayor, for me to come in and have a town hall meeting once every 6 months and 25 people show up, it's not effective. I have to be communicating with those citizens every day. So I'm establishing a task force that's built up of a ward captain that helps the council person communicate with me the needs of the ward and the needs of the citizens. I have to be able to do that. My homeowners association president and my ministers in those wards have different needs, and we have to be communicating with them on a regular basis.
What are your plans to help keep people from leaving Jackson, from fleeing out into the suburbs, or even talking about building an infrastructure here, bringing in more businesses to actually have people want to reside within the city limits of Jackson?
Well, I want to say I'm going to build a wall. But I better not say that right now. The wall is such
that was a great joke, though.
Yeah, okay. And so, but I have to get out and communicate with them, and I have to tell our citizens, those that have left, that we need them to come. See, some of our brightest talent has migrated out of the city, mm-hmm. and all our businesses have left. Now, as the past chairman of the chamber, I know every CEO in the metropolitan area, those that have not been replaced lately.
Yeah.
I know all of the mayors. Gary Rhodes up in Flowood, and he and I talked this 2 days ago. Gene McGee, Mary Hawkins Butler, Fisher when he was mayor down in Clinton last month. All of these folk I'm talking to every day anyway. And so I have to get them to share the vision of let's restore Jackson. Let's invest in Jackson. Now, I'm going to say something here that is controversial in a lot of people's mind, but I'd like to see a regional sales tax. Because citizens in the metropolitan area are riding on the streets of Jackson, who are in and out of here all day long, it would be wonderful if we could get a shared regional sales tax, since our citizens don't have any place to shop in Jackson. If they wanted to shop in Jackson, we don't have the business here for them to go to. So naturally, they got to flock out to Dogwood and Renaissance and places like that. But if I could get the legislature and the mayors agree that we could have a shared sales tax, then Jackson could fix some of its problems. Getting them to come back has got to fix housing, we got to fix these streets, and we got to work on this education system. Now, my job is not to be the superintendent, but the superintendent and I will meet at least once a quarter to talk about What are we doing? How are we communicating? How Jackson Public Schools is performing? A lot of time we're performing a lot better than the word is getting out.
Mm-hmm.
That this is a safer city and that education is improvement. And then I got to bring in our charter schools and have a shared relationship with them to project to people that want to come into Jackson that this is the right place to be.
Well, let's talk again about the regional sales tax that you just brought up, the
Yeah.
idea of that. Would that be on top of the taxes that citizens here already have to pay on things that they purchase and stuff?
It doesn't have to be. It doesn't have to be. See, currently Jackson has the highest sales tax rate of any metropolitan area, any city in the metropolitan area. We pay 8% sales tax. And so, that's higher. When I buy a hamburger at McDonald's in Jackson, it's a higher sales tax than when I buy the same hamburger in Madison.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because we have the convention center tax that was added on to the state regulated sales tax rate. So we're at 8% and sometimes maybe 9%. And so I have to say to the outlying areas, let's allocate 1 cent of your 7 cent to Jackson. I'm not talking about increasing sales tax on anybody. I'm opposed to increased taxes. We're taxed too much currently.
Mm-hmm.
And so, but I am talking about redistributing. And it's being done all the time. You think about it from this way. When the legislature puts money into the education system, it goes into the counties and the Department of Education, then reallocates it to schools. I'm saying the same thing. Sales tax come into your city, Mayor Hawkins, Butler, allocate a penny of that to Jackson if the legislature will allow you to do it.
Well, so you're against raising the taxes, but you do want to bring this in, but maybe do away or lessen what is already there, what is already in place here in Jackson.
We cannot lessen the tax. That's the legislature's deal. The state's got that set, and sales tax are distributed between the MDOT, the highway department, and everything, everywhere else, gas tax, etc. But we're going to have to redistribute. We're going to have to redefine the revenue to the goals that we have that's shared. If the goal is a shared vision to repair Jackson streets because we all travel on them, then we need some revenue. But not only that, though, Carol, I'm going to ask the surrounding mayors to send me one public works crew from each city to help me repair Jackson streets. I don't think that's asking too much. I think that if they understand that we cannot have this hole in the donut looking the way it is, that this is our capital city, it represents us all, then we ought to all share in repairing it. We know it's old, the infrastructure is crumbling, so we all got to chip in and fix it.
So you're going to be asking for that from them on their dime to send a crew to help rebuild?
Not necessarily on their dime. If you think about how much money our citizens are putting into their cities, I'm saying basically let's return some of those dollars from the citizens of the city of Jackson back into Jackson through this methodology. It's a shared vision. And if we got that, we can identify creative ways to fix this problem.
Are there any cities, big cities out there that you have seen either do things such as this that you could look up to, or have gone from bad to good that you would maybe implement some of their tactics?
I see cities moving forward in a wonderful way. Montgomery, Alabama. The last time I was in Montgomery, I didn't know I was in Montgomery. That is a city that has just made remarkable strides in its infrastructure. It's clean, it's growing. All cities around us pretty much are growing. Birmingham is growing. So I see the model. Now, specifically on the legislation side, go into Dade County down in Miami. You know, the city limits, Jacksonville. the city limits is the whole county. So now we got a shared responsibility here. They have different divisions and little governments, but it all rolls up to one in that city. And Jackson can't be as divided as we are with Hinds County. We got 3 or 4 school districts in Jackson. It's just too much. And so we're going to have to consolidate some things. We're going to have to work together. We're going to have to understand the revenues that we have and prioritize how we're going to use them.
Well, let's ask you then, how did the citizens of Jackson, how can they trust that you will not be a mayor that falls into an alleged corruption scandal, that they know that they're not going to see you in the news because of something corrupt?
I've been working in Jackson now for 35, 40 years. I've been looked at every way you can look at an individual, because a successful black person is under tremendous scrutiny all of the time. In 35 or 40 years, I have not had one charge or element of criminal activities. Jackson made me. I owe Jackson for the quality of life that I've enjoyed. It's time for me to give back to Jackson, and I can do that. I don't need this job. I don't need to be taking a bribe. As Kenny Stokes says, I don't need to be popular, and I don't need no new friends that don't come to me with a recommendation. You see, in the South, Carol, you remember that the first thing we would ask anybody that shows up for the first time in our city would be, who are your folk? Where you come from? The same conversation you and I had when we started, And it's the same thing that's required with contractors when they come in here. They come in here asking you to do things, and it doesn't feel right, doesn't look right. You cannot fall prey to that. Our young folk didn't have the experience, didn't have the wisdom, they're not old enough to have it, to be able to avoid these traps that are set up every day. And it's shameful, the kinds of mistakes that we're making. We turned our young folk loose too soon. We didn't stay. We elected them and put them in the job and let them alone. That was a bad mistake. And so what we get is foolishness that occurs, like a good friend of mine, Marshawn Chrysler, just being sentenced the other day, being charged with selling bullets and a $900 campaign contribution. That's absolutely absurd. I can't allow myself and those around me to fall in those pitfalls, because we know every day we're being looked at. And so you have to carry yourself accordingly. Mayor Harvey Johnson wouldn't let you buy him a hamburger, let alone not a dinner, not a hamburger. And you have to be on guard that way. So I won't fall in that trap.
You won't fall in that trap. Well, tell us how you plan to revitalize downtown Jackson, if you believe that it can be revitalized.
Oh, I think it's already on a revitalization plan. I served as chairman of the Greater Jackson Chamber. We had the vision then, 2020 vision. And we knew that we had to invest in Jackson. We knew that we had to invest in the Pearl River. I was in Oklahoma City. Oklahoma City is got the river walk there. They're pumping water in. They have no river. They're pumping water in so you can have the little paddle boats downtown.
Oh, really? Yes, I didn't know that. Yeah.
And Jackson has been blessed with the mighty Pearl River flowing right down through its borders. So that John McGowan, you can say what you will or want, a brilliant man, self-made man, had the vision to put the One Lake plan downtown Jackson, where we would have had hotels, we would have had boardwalks, we would have had beachfront property, we would have had hotels sitting out in the middle of the river that you have to paddle to, that you can't drive to. It's so much that we can do to revitalize downtown. Calvin, as chairman of the Greater Chamber, I brought the 4th of July celebration to Jackson, Mississippi for the first time ever. It had never been done before. I was in Oakland, California, and it was during the 4th of July celebration, and I went to a 4th of July celebration on the water that was so spectacular. When I came home as chairman, I said, we are going to bring the 4th of July celebration downtown Jackson. And we did that under my leadership. So we are going to revitalize Jackson. We're going to get some help from the legislature. We're going to get some help from the Gaming Commission. We're going to get some help from outside investors. Mm-hmm. And we're going to make this a beautiful destination.
A destination city.
A destination.
Love
focusing on culture. So you gotta promote who you are, and we have a lot to promote. I mean, Governor Haley Barbour was essential in putting the Civil Rights Museum in Jackson. Mm-hmm. You know, initially it was going to go to Meridian, then it was going to go on Lakeland Drive. We fought to get it downtown Jackson, and a Republican governor understood the benefit of having a civil rights museum in Jackson, Mississippi, and we put it there. And that's the kind of visionary leadership that I'm going to bring.
Well, tell people how they can get in touch with you, get in touch with your campaign, if they want to volunteer, if they want to donate, if they want to have a bumper sticker or put a yard sign up. How can they reach you?
Well, I want you to go to my website, SocratesGarrett2025.com. You will see there on the website the donation button, the volunteer button, and then you will see ways that you can get in touch with us. But for many of you, I want you to help test the donate button.
Test it?
Just test it. You know, just go to it and see how it works.
Yeah.
You know, our citizens have not embraced technology in a big way. So I'm asking all the Jacksonians, and we will be coming to you with an email blast, and also on that email blast it will have these donate buttons as well. Barack Obama ran a $10, $15 campaign, and that's what we want to do here in Jackson, Mississippi. We do not want to be beholden to any big donors. We don't want anyone coming to us saying, well, I'll put you there. Mm-hmm. You need to behave. We don't want that. This is going to be a government that is for the citizens, run by the citizens, and restoring trust in Jackson.
Well, you just made me think of one more question, too. How do you plan to incorporate the citizens of Jackson in your decision-making, like listening to them, getting their input, and maybe even taking on some of their ideas? What are your plans for doing that?
Again, it's back to that pyramid that we got to put in place. When I get these ward captains in place, their job is to help me facilitate and communicate the citizens' needs. So my homeowner association's president, Mr. Ward, down in Ward 6, I'm coming your way. And I need to hear from the homeowner associations what the citizens are saying, neighborhoods and communities. I have to understand every community in Jackson. Now, I can't get down deep to the doors, to the house doors, mm-hmm. but I can get to the citizen level, to the community level, to the ward level, to the council person level, to the mayor. I can have a conversation that's ongoing in that pyramid, bringing me the information, and also redirecting what I think are priorities. So that's important.
It's very important. Well, I appreciate you so much for coming on and talking to me, spending the time out of your, I'm sure, a very busy day to come on here and just kind of lay it out to the citizens of Jackson, let them know what your plans are.
Thank you so much for having me. Vote Socrates Garrett, April 1st, for Socrates Garrett for mayor of the great city of Jackson.
Y'all heard it here. Y'all heard it here. Of course, you'll hear it here a lot over the next few days because we are going to be speaking with all of the mayoral candidates. Actually, we'll be back tomorrow at 1 o'clock here for WLBT Plus. Again, Mr. Garrett, Socrates. I feel like I can call you Socrates.
You
feel like
Please
the
do.
kind of guy that you can just say Socrates
That's
to.
right. Most folk call me Sock.
Sock, love it, love it. Well, Sock, thanks for coming on the show today.
Thank you so much.
Appreciate it. We'll see
right.
you guys tomorrow at 1 o'clock. Y'all have a wonderful day.